healthy back. We're offering this series to bring some simple revolution live. My name is Ellen Lewis, and I want to thank you for joining us. Welcome to the Healthy Living Revolution Live. My name is Ellen Lewis, and I want to thank you for joining us. The Healthy Living Revolution is a movement of people who are taking healthy back. We're offering this series to bring some simple solutions and simple education. Our speaker for this episode is a very good friend of mine, Dr. Paul Williams, who will address the subject of whole food nutrition versus multivitamins. Dr. Williams grew up on a farm in West Virginia where his family raised almost all of their own food. In 1975, he graduated from the West Virginia University School of Medicine. From there, his career took him to family practice in Pennsylvania and then private practice in Western Maryland, where he proudly delivered approximately 600 babies. Then he was on to Atlanta, Georgia, where he began a 22-year career in emergency medicine. And for the last 13 and a half years, he has practiced as a private physician for the Juice Plus Company's employees and their families. Dr. Williams has 3 children and 2 grandchildren, with number 3 on the way. He enjoys photography, golf, biking, and weight training under the direction of a personal trainer who just won't ever let him slack off. He believes educating people about the benefits of whole food-based nutrition is absolutely the most important thing that he can do. And we are so fortunate and grateful to hear what he has to share. So thank you again for joining us. I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Paul Williams.
Thank you, Ellen, for that very kind introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm pleased that you have decided to listen in to this recording. And I hope that I will be able to give you some really good information that will help you make good decisions about your nutrition. The subject I'm going to talk about is indeed misunderstood and is confusing to a lot of people. I want to talk about plant-based nutrition and compare it to the array of nutritional supplements that are taken by many people today. There are only 4 main points that I want to make. The first one is that we evolved, the human race evolved to eat whole foods. This means that we evolved to utilize the nutrition found in those foods and to depend on the availability of that nutrition. Just as we depend on oxygen and water to stay alive, and indeed must have them to stay alive, we must have the nutrition from whole foods to stay healthy. The human body has a tremendous inherent capacity to minimize, control, even heal problems that do occur, and to prevent what hasn't happened yet if we feed it right. The whole foods that I am talking about come from plants, including fruits and vegetables and berries, whole grains, nuts, beans, etc. Now, we have always known that these foods were good for us, but we didn't really understand exactly what they were doing for us or why they were so good for us. Only in the early 1990s, about 25 years ago, did food scientists begin to actually look at what is in fruits and vegetables. They began isolating and identified the substances they found there. And it turns out the nutrition in these foods is much more complex and extensive than anyone ever believed, I think. To date, they have isolated and identified several thousand substances in fruits and vegetables. Common terms applied to these substances are phytochemicals, and the prefix phyto just means it's in a plant. Chemical just means it's a substance. They're also called phytonutrients, and they're also called micronutrients, this latter term being used to indicate that each one is there in a very, very tiny amount, micrograms for the most part. Some of the classes of these nutrients that you might have heard about or will see in the future are anthocyanins, carotenoids, and flavonoids. And again, we are back to this concept of we don't need a large amount of any of these every day. We need a little bit of everything, because there is a tremendous synergistic effect to having them all together. This is the way the body knows how to use this nutrition. And without enough of this whole food nutrition, a person can never be as healthy as he or she would be otherwise. So we've got to have this nutrition. The second point I want to make is that it is essentially impossible to get enough of this nutrition from our modern diet. The current recommendation is an average of 10 servings a day of fresh, raw fruits and vegetables. Now, what do those terms mean? Raw obviously means uncooked. This is important because heat can damage many nutrients, and we tend to cook our foods, especially our vegetables, much more than needed in many instances. I don't think you have to eat everything raw, but when you can, it's a good idea. Maybe steaming your vegetables or leaving them a little bit crunchy would be good. Fresh is even more of a problem for most people, because fresh means ripened on the plant and recently harvested. Why is that important? That's important because those thousands of phytonutrients that we need form in the food as part of the ripening on the plant process. The vast majority of produce in your grocery stores was picked green so it won't spoil. But when you pick it green, that stops the formation of all of that nutrition. It will never be as nutritious as it could have been had it ripened on the plant. And then third, most Americans fall far short of eating enough of these foods every day. The recommendation is an average of 10, and I think that's a baseline, a starting point. And no more than 15% of us eat even 5 servings a day. Most people are less than that. So when you put these 3 factors together, most Americans are eating fewer than 5 servings a day, and what they do eat was not ripened on the plant and has been cooked. It is impossible to get enough whole food nutrition from our diet alone. This means several things. It means that we are going to age faster, which basically means we're wearing out faster. We're going to have a higher risk of illness and disease, and our bodies will not be able to deal with the problems that do occur nearly as well as they should be able to. The third major point I want to make is that many people know, or at least suspect, that their nutritional intake is suboptimal and will result in an adverse effect on their health. So they want to do something about it. Therefore, the easiest thing to do, most decide, is to try to improve the situation by taking nutritional supplements. There are 2 general types of supplements. One would be what are called isolated nutrients. In other words, each pill has just one nutrient in it, like a pill of vitamin C or a vitamin E. And then there are multivitamins, which have more than one, usually at least several, and some of them have 100 or more nutrients in them. I want to define a couple terms here real quickly. Minerals are inorganic nutrients that come from the soil. These are taken up by the plants and occur or arrive in the food as it's ripening. So that's how the food we're going to eat gets its mineral content. This is things such as calcium and iron and zinc and selenium. Then there are the vitamins. Now, the term vitamin comes from the word vital, which means necessary for life. And to date, there really are only 13 true vitamins. In other words, nutrients that have been proven to be absolutely necessary for a person to stay alive. The term vitamin, though, has come to be used generically by many people to indicate or to mean any and all nutrients. Therefore, a multivitamin is a supplement with a number of nutrients in it. Certainly, most of them have the true vitamins in them. Vitamins A, the B complex, C, D, E, and several of the several other B vitamins in addition to just B12. I meant to say B12 a moment ago there, but those are the true vitamins. It's interesting to note that there is no set formula for a multivitamin. Anything that has several nutrients in it can be called a multivitamin. Thus, any multivitamin is just someone's idea of what should be in there, of what we need. This applies also even to prenatal vitamins. Any multivitamin can be called a prenatal vitamin if it has a minimum amount of folic acid and of iron in it. Doesn't matter what else is in it. It can be called a prenatal vitamin. And if you think about it, anybody who is taking a number of isolated supplements is actually creating his or her own multivitamin. It's just in a whole lot of different pills. Now, while at first it sounds logical to attack the problem in this manner, there are some risks or some problems that come about from doing this. The first problem that I see is that how do you choose what to take? In 2012, there were an estimated 50,000 different supplements available on the market. Some of them isolated nutrients, some of them multiple nutrients or multivitamins. How do you choose what to take? Do you go into a store and turn left the first time you're shopping there and pick up as many bottles as you can carry? And the next time you turn right? Do you base it on what you can afford? Do you base it on new information you've heard that where somebody has now realized that this mineral or this vitamin is necessary for health in one way? Okay, I better take more of that. Let me go get some of that too. How do you decide? There is no good decision in that situation, in my opinion. Now, also remember the synergistic effect I talked about just a few minutes ago. It's important to realize that no nutrient functions alone. So taking a few or even several hundred without the rest of those thousands of phytonutrients cannot ever result in the hoped for health benefits. It's just not going to work that way. Your body cannot take large amounts or isolated amounts of nutrients and use that in the place of a tiny amount of thousands of nutrients. Now, I do want to make the point that there is a difference between preventative nutrition and therapeutic nutrition. And I'm just pointing this out here that we're talking about preventative and health maintenance nutrition. There is a role in some health problems for high doses of isolated nutrients over a short period of time. That's therapeutically, but we're not talking about that today. We're talking about preventative and health maintenance. Now, I used to do this though. I have been vegetarian now for almost 45 years. I do want to point out that just taking the meat out of a diet doesn't mean that what's left is automatically really healthy. I still ate a way more white flour and white sugar and dairy and fat than I should have. And over time, I was seeing the negative impact of that diet, not really understanding a whole lot about whole food nutrition yet at that time. I began adding a lot more whole food nutrition to my diet 22 years ago, and I've certainly seen a significant impact, and I'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But back when I was taking the supplements, I had a whole shelf in the kitchen dedicated to my collection of bottles, and on days I could talk myself into it, I would take vitamin A and vitamin B, a big B complex, vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc, selenium, chromium, dolomite, lecithin, maybe some I've forgotten. It took too long to take them one at a time, so you learn to swallow a big handful of things all at once, which is a health hazard in its own right, I think. But I thought that I was either helping myself or at least not hurting myself. And it turns out both of those are wrong, and I'll explain that in just a moment. I will make the point again that you will never get to complete nutrition by taking isolated nutrients or multivitamins alone. The final problem I want to mention deals with the safety and effectiveness of typical supplements. One risk, I think, that comes from this one problem is that people think that if they are taking supplements, multivitamins, isolated ones, big doses of these things, then they are getting what they need, and therefore they don't have to worry about making big changes in their diets. So they're going to continue with a suboptimal diet and suboptimal nutrition and suffer the health consequences of that. A second problem here, a second risk, is a genuine risk of overdose of a couple nutrients. The two I'm thinking about primarily are vitamin A and iron. And these are present in pretty much every multivitamin and every pediatric multivitamin. There's a reason that pediatric multivitamin bottles say on them, keep out of the reach of children. Vitamin A, first of all, there is no preformed vitamin A in food. It doesn't exist in fruits and vegetables. Beta carotene does exist, and that is converted to vitamin A by the liver as more vitamin A is needed. But taking a big dose of vitamin A, preformed vitamin A, and or iron can be extremely toxic and indeed can be fatal. So if your child gets into a bottle of one of those, even the pediatric multivitamins, that's an ER visit and a real potential health risk. The other problem is that there is a large body of research that has attempted to evaluate the effectiveness of multivitamins and isolated nutrients. And to date, there is no clear, consistent proof or evidence that any health problem is decreased or prevented by any of these nutrients. And there are some very clear studies that raise a very significant concern about the safety of even isolated nutrients and even multivitamins. Large doses of even some of our most important nutrients like vitamin C and vitamin E have been called to task, as have multivitamins. So there is just not any evidence that any chronic disease has ever been prevented by multivitamins or that they will ever do so. And there is a very serious concern about the safety. My fourth major point is the fact that, so we're back to needing nutrition from plants, right back where we started. My first encouragement to each of you is to please eat more fruits and vegetables and berries and all of the foods from plants. Add more of them to your diet. Buy locally grown ones when you can, because these will be more nutritious. Grow some of your own. Will be the most nutritious when you can. And I certainly have been making an effort to do these things over the last number of years. But the additional way that I have chosen to add more whole food-based nutrition to my diet is by utilizing the whole food-based supplement called Juice Plus. Juice Plus is the nutrition from 30 of our most nutritious fruits, vegetables, and berries, all of which are grown on farms and orchards that are contracted to or owned by the parent company. All of the food is ripened on the plant and harvested at the peak of ripeness, which means its highest possible nutrient content. Shortly thereafter, it is all mashed up together, and then the water is removed in a rapid low temperature process that leaves behind a powder that contains those thousands of phytonutrients. And this powder is put in a capsule and in a chewable gummy. When I began adding this nutrition to my diet 22 years ago, and I had, even with my plant-based diet, I have seen a very significant positive impact on my health status. The real reason, I mean, I'm very happy to tell you that I feel better and I know I'm healthier. A lot of people would say, well, but that's not proof that this is going to do that for me. The real reason I can tell you that if your diet does not supply enough whole food nutrition, that Juice Plus will have a positive impact is because of the research that has been completed on people taking Juice Plus. To date, 38 published medical and scientific studies that have looked at the effect of Juice Plus on multiple measurable parameters that indicate a person's greater chances, greater ability to stay healthy, or greater chances of staying well and healthier throughout life. I'll mention just two of the things we know because I think they can have an impact on everybody. We know from Juice Plus that there is less inflammation in the body, and the immune system is much better balanced and functions much more normally. My own experience with both of those is that from an inflammation standpoint, I have a whole lot less joint pain. And from a healthier immune system situation, I have a whole lot less trouble with allergies and with sinus infections. I will never be without this whole food nutrition. I know what it's done for me and for my family, and I encourage you to take a serious look at it. You have now heard my opinion on this, and you have heard my own personal story with this. And I want to now invite you to listen to two brief stories from other people about their experiences when they added this whole food-based nutrition to their diets.
My name is Sherry Ann Bennett. I started dealing with autoimmune conditions at the age of 2. I had serious cases of both allergies and eczema. At the age of 25, I was diagnosed with a third autoimmune condition called leaky gut syndrome. Doctors' answers for me had been steroids, steroid creams, and antihistamines my whole life. I didn't want to continue my life on that route, putting Band-Aids on the symptoms. So I started educating myself on how to recover my immune system health. Could it be as simple as fruits and vegetables? Really? Well, I bought a juicer, trying to get more whole food nutrition into my diet. It was a challenge to do every single day and to juice a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. So I thought, why don't I fill in the gaps with isolated vitamin supplements? That seems like a whole lot easier way to fill in the gaps. I was spending hundreds of dollars a month and taking handfuls of high quality vitamins every single day. I would be nauseated if I took them on an empty stomach, and my urine was bright yellow, so I wondered if they were really doing any good. Fast forward 7 years and I learned about the simple solution of Juice Plus, whole food nutrition, fruits and vegetables in capsules, and most importantly, backed by independent, peer-reviewed, published research. After 4 months of taking Juice Plus, I had more energy in the afternoon. After 8 months, I didn't get the flu the first winter that I took it. After 2 years of taking Juice Plus, the lifelong eczema started to dissipate. And in 3 years of taking Juice Plus, the lifelong allergies were completely gone. Every year after that, I saw changes that I had not seen the previous year. And today, after 16 years of taking Juice Plus faithfully every single day, I am healthier than I have ever been in my entire life, and I will never go without Juice Plus.
Hi everyone, I'm Terry Luongo, and my background has always been in the fitness industry. I'm the girl that when I was in my late 20s and 30s, I would be the girl that would work out 2 and 3 times a day. And instead of being vibrant, vital, and alive, my body was breaking down and it was becoming inflamed from head to toe. And I was starting to be diagnosed with things like chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, IBS, and I had very severe periodontal disease. And so my solution back then was handfuls of isolated nutrients, handfuls of vitamins, only to find out that these vitamins did nothing to prevent me from getting sick, and they certainly were doing nothing to help me get well. And then 23 years ago, I was introduced to Juice Plus, concentrated food in a capsule, and my body started to respond. My cells started to respond. I was finally feeding my body what it needed to stay well, to recover, and to experience the kind of health that I wanted. I started sleeping better at night. I started drinking more water. And for the first time, I was really on the path to vibrant, vital health. And I'm here to tell you that today, in my 60s, I have that kind of vibrant, vital health that I always knew was possible. And I am so blessed that someone introduced me to Juice Plus.
A huge thank you to both Sherry Ann and Terry for sharing their personal stories, and especially to Dr. Williams for this important information. I'd like to encourage you to get back with the person who invited you to view this webinar so you can learn more. And I'd like to thank you again for joining us.